Okay. The next thing we're going to touch on is going to be your actual data entry for the assessment. So like I said, as we're kind of collecting a lot of the back data, we've actually built out spreadsheets that's going to allow you to collect some of that data. And that is going to look like this right here. So we'll start out with this. Once again, the system is going to collect certain points of data. So if you have different types of assessment, different types of data, it is either going to fit, or we're going to have you request some sort of additional data point or different assessment, which we can review in the future. But basically, when you're going through the whole backlog of all of your assessments, we'll give you these spreadsheets, and basically what you'll end up doing is kind of go through each of your active clients and start filling out the different data. So as you see here, we have weight, and we can fill in different data points. So you can start by filling in the backdating of all of the weights, and then add the dates on the top here. And then you can go through the different data points. And once again, if you don't have the data point, you just leave it blank, and then you can either start adding it going forward, or you just don't have to worry about it. So we have data collection for weight, measurements. Once again, we have all the data points within the measurements, and you just add in the numbers, put the coinciding dates on the top. And then the next thing is going to be your assessments. So once again, we're really basing this off of industry standards. We worked with all of our pilot members. We gathered all of the different assessments that they're doing currently within their studios, and we really baked it down into these particular assessments that are most common within all studios. And as you can see here, we have them listed out. So once again, if you've done these types of assessments with your clients in the past, I would encourage you to record the data and the date so that we can get that pushed into all the historical data within that particular client. So that's kind of what it looks like from the point of view when it goes to actually doing the historical data and backfilling on your existing clients. And once again, you're going to be doing a spreadsheet for every single active. Remember that you want historical data pushed into the assessment software. The next thing I want to show you is more of, I've been building this out for probably the last 2-3 months. This is going to be more of a website that you guys can use to go to kind of give an update on the assessment software, kind of understand the implementation portion of it. And then the last feature is going to be if you have any requests, and I'll kind of walk you through that. So as you can see here, we built out a Fitness Together assessment portal website. And it's kind of just, as you can see, we have a welcome, a little bit of verbiage in here, and I encourage you to kind of read through some of it. But then it goes into the implementation plan, and what you can do within here is actually start gathering all of your data. So if you refer back to kind of the rollout plan, it's all baked into the website, so you can kind of systematically go through this and start collecting all of your data. So as you see here, as you flow through it, you can do your technology assessment review by taking this, opening it up, downloading it, filling it out, and then submitting it in. It kind of goes through some of the different technology recommendations as far as within your studio. Mind-body review, how to do different types of reviews within your system to start updating clients that need certain information. All that good stuff. So I encourage you to kind of go through this, and this is going to be kind of a step-by-step process that you're going to be taking within your studio to do this onboarding. So I'll kind of scroll through just a little bit more so you can kind of see. So that's the implementation tab. I've also built in a couple other things. We're becoming familiar with the assessment software. I've actually done a little bit of work. These need to be updated a little bit. But you can certainly log in here and kind of understand what it looks like from our YouTube clips as far as what it looks like from a manager's view when you log in, kind of what it looks like from a trainer's view when you log in. So I encourage you guys to log in, kind of run through some of these different modules to get a good understanding of how the system works and become familiar with it. And then we have our how to use. This goes into a little bit more of actually how to use the assessment software. Once again, I'll just kind of scroll through a little bit of it just so you can see it. performing assessments, talking a little bit about the widgets, how they're calculated, and all that fun stuff. The biggest part of this actual website is going to be the feedback forms. This is kind of what we use during our pilot groups to make sure that we're collecting all the information. If you guys have any information as far as you're going through the system and there might be something that might not be working correctly, we do have our feedback forms here where you can submit different types of tickets. If you have a system bug, if you'd like to see an enhancement within the system, if you have an assessment test, let's say you see on our assessments that there might not be something that's included into it and you want to make a recommendation or request, we ask that you do it within here so at least we have you know, basically recorded so we can kind of go from there. Operational questions, basically anything that you have questions about within the system or requests, we ask that you go through the assessment feedback form, submit information through there, and that is reviewed on a daily basis, and then it's reviewed with the executive staff on a weekly to monthly basis, depending on how much information is coming in. The last thing that we have in here is going to be the FAQs. So once again, through our pilot groups, there was a lot of similar questions kind of coming through the different feedback forms, so we wanted to make sure that we at least started building out a decent FAQ. So if you have any questions about the system, feel free to jump on here and kind of look through some of the different stuff to see if you can answer it within that time. All right, guys. So that's kind of a nutshell of where this assessment software is sitting, kind of the different tools that you're going to be using once you start building out and preparing for the launch within your studios. So with that said, what I'm going to do is slip into the actual assessment software, and I'm going to walk through what a trainer would do the first time that they log into the system, kind of a couple different points that I want to highlight, and then what it would be like walking through entering somebody in that has no historical data within their software or within the assessment software. Let me bump that out. All right. So most of you, I would assume, saw this when you were at the national conference. But once again, when you're logging in as a trainer, you're going to see a couple different things. You log in, you kind of see a little bit of information up on the top. These are different widgets that kind of call out how things are performing from a standpoint for you as a trainer. So your monthly visits, a number of active clients, and so on and so forth. The next thing you're going to see here is all of your appointments for the day. So not only are you going to see your own appointments, but you're going to see basically all the appointments that are associated to you. So what that really means is every trainer that logs in, you can actually associate different members to that particular trainer so that when they log in, they could either see only their particular clients that are associated to them, or they could see all clients within the studio. And kind of how that works is going to be on, I'll kind of open it up right here. And this is more for studio owners, and a lot of them are kind of mixed where it, hey, I want my trainers to see every single member within the studio, or some of them will be, hey, I only want them to focus on the particular clients that they're working on. So to do so, when you log into the actual assessment software and you kind of look at the user client, as you can see here, we have instructors on the right-hand side. So when you click on instructors, you can actually associate, for example, Jacob. We can associate different trainers to Jacob. So when these trainers log in, when Abby, Adam, Alan log into the system, they can see Jacob's profile and actually do different things with him, whether it's perform an assessment, do different kind of scheduling things with him. This is where you would set that up. I will say that 90% of the information when we connect into MindBody, the way it works is if a trainer has had some sort of connection point or has trained them in MindBody within the last 6 months to a year, they'll automatically be associated to that particular member. So you don't have to worry about going in and updating everything. It's more or less for the people that want to constrict and make sure that their trainers are only focusing on maybe the 10 active clients that they're working with on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So that's where you'd go in and do that. Some of the other stuff within here, once again, you always want to make sure that you collect as much information and keep as much of this information as current as possible. So when I logged in as a trainer, Jacob's coming in for a training session that day. When I click on, once again, over here, it brings up a little mini profile. Here I can kind of update different information. And once again, this information right here, first name, last name, email address, phone number, birthday, that actually connects back into MindBody. So if you make any changes within MindBody or in FitMetrics around those key pieces of data, they're going to flow back and forth between the two systems, just so you guys know. Different things you can do within here is update their heart rate monitor, add a user image, and then the next thing is goals. So as you can see here off to the right-hand side, we have monthly visits, a couple different things. So we can actually set his goals. So let's say he comes in and we want him to at least work out 8 times per month. He's more worried about lean body mass. We can set those particular figures, save it off. And then when we go in here, as you can see, it updated this particular widget to say now we have monthly visits. So far he's been in 0 of 8 times, and that's his goal is 8. So I just wanted to point out that little mini profile because that's something that you at least want your trainers, when they log in for the first time, they get their new client, they want to at least go in there and make sure that some of that data is entered in and updated. The next thing that they want to do when they're looking at the profile, once again, as you can see here, we have their dashboard. And right now, there's not a lot of information in this dashboard because we have to start filling it in with either assessments, measurements, photos, whatever it may be. As we start entering that information in, it's going to start flowing into the dashboard. And the best way to do this, and it really depends. Going forward, you can kind of pick and choose where you want to go within this particular, the different categories. But when you first actually work with your client, I always recommend that you start out with measurements, because what happens with measurements is when you enter in the weight, you enter in the body fat, and then you enter in the measurements, a lot of that data is actually going to start pushing out to your different widgets here. So we have our weight, we have our LBM, BMI, percent body fat, and it also gets attached to photos as well. So for example, if you go in and you start out with photos, you take photos and you put them into the system, it's not going to suck in the data that you, if you didn't enter that information first. Like I said, we always start out with measurements. We'll go in here and start out with weight. And when you click on weight, it's going to ask you for weight. You enter in that information, height, birthday, and you save it off. And I'm sure some of you kind of are wondering, well, when I opened up the mini profile here, it had all this information. How come it's not populating into this particular field as well? The reason behind that is because when you open up their little mini profile, that information in the future is going to be available to them on their members portal. So when they log in, they're able to update that information as well. And with assessments, you want to make sure that trainers are the source of all the information. So we've kind of disconnected their mini profile from the assessment side of things so that you guys can keep the actual weight, the actual height within the system. So I'll add in weight of 185. Try to save this off here. All right, that's working gloriously here. Do this. Okay. So it should transfer into it. I'm working in a demo site today, so that could have a lot of reasons behind it. So once again, it usually pops up. If you've never entered the data before, you'll have that pop-up screen. You enter in the information, and it will save off to this particular field where it says for the weight. If not, you can just manually put it in, save it off. Same thing with the body fat. One of the things that they did build into this is you're able to calculate actual body fat within it as well. So if you do different types of measurements, you can actually enter in the 3-point Pollock body fat measurements, and then it'll manually calculate that and put that into the fields within here as well. So once again, as you saw, as I enter this information in, it pushes information into these tiles and widgets back here, and which will also push into these back here as well. So let me go back into Jacob, and as you see, we've updated that. This widget updated, and we start kind of building out some of these tiles as well. So once again, I always recommend starting out with the weight. Cancel that. And then we also have medical as well, where you can add in blood pressure if you track that, if you track blood glucose, if you track resting heart rate. Once again, all of that information you can start tracking within the system as well. And you can always pull trending data on this information as you enter it in. And every time you log into the system and bring it back up, you're always going to see what you last entered within the system. So one of the good examples is once I take measurements in here, you take all your measurements, you save it off. The next time you log in, you're going to see those measurements. So if there's any updates to the measurements, you go in and update it with in here, save it off. So at least you know every time you make an update what the last calculations were within that. And it also tells you off here on the right-hand side when this was last updated as well. So that's the whole measurement piece of it. And then working from there, I always go from measurements into the next phase, which could be photos. So once again, with photos, you can either upload them into the system via your computer, or if you're using a tablet, you actually can click on the little camera icon. It loads up the camera functionality within the tablet. You take a picture and it flows within the system. One of the things, and I'll go into another person here just so you can kind of see. So after we did the measurements with this gentleman, we actually took the photos, and this is what I was talking about. So I ended up taking the photo and bringing it in first, and as you can see here, it brought in none of the data before I filtered that in. But if I would have done the measurements first, all of that information would have been attached to that photo with a date stamp on it, so at least you have information flowing from your measurements into your photos. And once again, you can kind of take your back, your left, right. If you want to do any videos with it, once again, you can either upload a video or take a video with your tablet. And then different workouts as well. Same kind of concept if you want to upload videos of the workout that they're doing in that particular thing. Next thing I would always go to is your actual assessment test. So as you see here, when you first go in here, we have it categorized into Steve's test, cardio, movement, muscle endurance. We always, with Steve's test, basically what happens with that is once you have kind of built up some tests, they start flowing into Steve's tests, so that when you click into them, you actually see what kind of tests they've done in the past, and you can kind of go in and just redo the same tests that he's done in the past, or you can choose cardio, FMS, cardio, movement, muscular, and then go in and add different assessments with it. So once you find your assessment, basically you click on it, and you have a couple different things going on here. So not only do you have a date, so if you have to backdate any data, you just go in here and actually update the data, or update the date. You go through the assessment, you do the calculation, you enter it into that particular field right there. And then some of the other things that you can see within here is we have details, so it kind of gives you a little bit of an overview of the assessment. If there's any variations within that assessment, we'll kind of put it in there. Once again, these are just more kind of read fields as far as we might have different instructions on how to do the different assessments and stuff like that. The next thing you have are notes. So as you're doing the assessments, you can always add notes to the system and they save it off, and it's almost kind of like text messaging. So as you go through the assessments, you enter a note into it, you save it off. The next time you go into there, you'll actually see the last time you've made that measurement, and you'll see the last note that you made on there, and you can always make additional notes into it. So if you have different trainers doing assessments on the same person, you can always kind of see what they've done in the past. So at least you can mimic it or kind of understand where to go with the next assessment measurement. And then as these flow through the different assessments, it's as simple on the left-hand side as going into the different categories and going through, once again, recording your information, adjusting notes, and so on and so forth within there. The next thing I would probably go to is, this is kind of an optional one. We have our health client questionnaire. I will put the caveat to this where you can certainly use it. We've built this out very generically, and it will change in the future because we're looking at using this for more of an intake questionnaire in the future. So obviously you're more than welcome to use it now. It works well as far as just asking some of the basic questions or having your client actually go through and kind of answering some of those questions, and then you can save these submission forms off. And if you ever want to bring them back up, you certainly can by clicking on the past submission form. It pulls in all that data from that submission form, and then you can either update it or you can create a new submission form within there. So once again, this is going to be something that is going to evolve, so I just kind of put that caveat to it. You can use it today, but it might change in the future. The next thing I want to touch on is going to be the notes portion of it. What's really kind of neat about this whole system on the notes side of thing is not only can you make notes internal to other trainers, but you can also start making these external to the clients as well. So in the future, when we roll out, the member portal, when you put in different communications to your client, not only can you push it out to their web portal, so they'll get an email on it saying, hey, log into the web portal, we have a communication that goes out to you. But they've also built in the feature where you can text message out information as well. So if you, at the end of the session, or you want to do it weekly or whatever you might want to do with it, you can actually go in, log into this, and just type out a note, and then toggle on whether you want to send it to the email or send it to the text message. Type in the note, submit it off. It gets filtered and captured within the trainer's note section, but it also gets pushed off to that user as well. So whatever you guys want to use it for, I think it's a great function and feature that they built into the system. So now once you kind of go through everything, you start with your measurements, you do your photos, you do your assessments, add any additional notes, maybe do a little bit of the client questionnaire, then everything is going to flow back into the dashboard. So now that you have everything captured, you can come in here and start looking at generating a report. One of the things that you can do within the reports is when you click on it, you can kind of determine what kind of report you want to build with these. So you can do a date range. So for most of the clients that you're going to backfill a lot of data into, it could be one of those things where you kind of start within the last year, and then you can pick and choose based off of what you've entered into the system. So for example, if it's the first time, you might want to choose everything, spit out this huge long report, kind of walk through with them what it looks like, and then as you progress every 6 weeks with different assessments, if you only do something as far as you just added different assessments or you updated the photos, you can certainly click on these particular different categories, and then you can generate the report. And I don't know if all of you saw the report, but basically the report comes out to you like this. So it's a comprehensive report. It pulls in the information that you wanted to have onto it. So as you can see here, we pulled the assessment results. Basically, I kind of backfilled some of the data on this particular user. So as you can see, it pulls in every single data point taken, gives you a graph, so on and so forth. I'll kind of scroll through this so you can kind of see what happens. Then we move into body measurements. As you calculate different measurements within it, it will always give you your most recent measurements, and then it'll give you a historical graph or a historical snapshot of everything that you've entered within the system. Different health submissions. So once again, that client questionnaire, it kind of tracks when the last questionnaire was updated. And then it goes into the weight, body fat. I didn't put a lot of back data into this, but basically if you start building this out, it'll have every single data point and historical data point within this report. and then it ends up with photos. So kind of scroll through that. And then the notes is the last piece on this particular report, just because I sucked in all the information for the report. So with that being said, that is, once again, kind of how you walk through the first time when you bring a client into the system. Obviously, if it's going to be a little bit different if you actually have back data built into the system for a user, because a lot of this information will already be available. A lot of the widgets will be updated with some of the past performances within assessments or body fat or whatever it may be. But if you, once again, bring in somebody brand new, that's kind of the way you want to bring them through the system. And then so on and so forth going forward, you just basically bring them in depending on what kind of assessment you're going to be doing with that client. You can kind of toggle around to the different categories to do those particular assessments. So that's really what I wanted to kind of talk to today. I wanted to give it at least enough time. I'm assuming there's going to be quite a few questions. Let me kind of open this up here. And then I'll unmute everybody as well. All right, guys. So I have unmuted everybody. Does anybody have any questions for the most part? I think Bob has a question, actually. So Bob asked a question, when you're entering a note on the assessments, will that info be visible to clients when they assess their... to answer that question, Bob, no. So as we go through here, once again, you can kind of toggle it on and off, either to clients or hidden. And as you can see here, I put a hidden icon. So when I type in the information, submitted it, it actually is saved internally. So nobody can see it besides the people logging into the system. Do I have any other questions? All right. Well, if I don't have any questions, feel free to email me any kind of questions you have. One of the last things that I kind of want to touch on is I know I've had some questions about where are we going to start with the whole rollout phase? What studios are we going to start with? We're kind of still determining that at this point. We have roughly 30, let me do this here. We have roughly 30, 35 studios that are interested in rolling into the system. So I've been working with Eric at this point to kind of start categorizing where we want to start with and the different studios and what makes sense. So we should have an update within the next week and a half on where that's going to start. But once again, once we start with this process, basically I'm going to connect in with you guys. I'll give you access to the website. We'll start kind of working through the initial phases of what it looks like to roll into your studios as far as doing all of the data collection, the data cleanup, and then we'll start making the transition into your studios. So, are there any other questions?
Hey, Tony, there's a few, yeah. There's a few people that I think wrote on the chat. So do you have access to that?
I only have one. Oh, here we go, two. So Brian asked, yeah, when can we start using it? Once again, we're looking at probably June 1st is when we're going to start our first wave. We're looking at probably anywhere from 8 to 12 studios for our first wave, and it's yet to be determined what studios are going to be in that first wave at this point. So, Boo, why is the dashboard not laid out as you presented? Measurements, photos, tests. That's a great question. Because once you actually get into it, so like I said, when you start out with a brand new client, so you bring in somebody brand new and you've never done an assessment, you have no historical data, I at least wanted to touch on that portion of it to at least bring you through the workflow of what makes the best sense from a brand new person. Once they're in the system and you have done some sort of historical data on them, then at that point it really depends on what kind of assessment you're doing at that 6-week portion of it. So if you're, once again, if you're only doing a couple tests, if you're only doing a photo, let's say you're doing photos every week, week and a half, 2 weeks, or you're doing update on weight every week, it's not going to be something where you're going to have to go through the same flow. You just want to pick and choose what you're going to do going forward. So that answers that. And that, so can we add tests? You can request tests to be added, and that's going to be within the website. We ask that you go through there and kind of make additional requests for the different type of assessments that you're looking to add. And then we're going to review them and see if it's something that we should roll into the system at that point. All right, so Katie, for those of us who are the beta test users and already have access, there are still some features not working. Great question. So we do have another release coming out tomorrow on the system. There's a couple additional features that we've went through on the last 2 weeks. I think we have a conversation to pull in the rest of the features that we're looking to add into it, and they have baked into the system probably 80% of those features, so they will be rolled out tomorrow. Bob asked, can we see some of the tests we will be using to input the data? You showed a 1-minute bike ride push. What else is there? So within the tests, we have through cardio, we have a 1-minute, 3-minute, estimated VO2 treadmill, and then estimated VO2 bike. Through movement, we have overhead, sit and reach. In the muscular, we have sit-up, bench press, box squats, deadlift, plank, push-up, and wall sits. And once again, this is something that we worked with all of the beta users to determine what they're using currently within their studios. And this is the most common theme between all studios. Aaron asked, is this compatible for iPad and Android tablets? I will say yes. One of the caveats to this, though, is the system looks best on higher resolution tablets. So, for example, the iPad, I think, has a resolution of 24. It's within the website. I'll have to look it up, but it has a higher resolution. So if you get something comparable within an Android tablet, you want to make sure that it's comparable in terms of the same resolution. Because if you get a lower resolution, what happens is everything blocks up a little bit more and it squeezes a little bit more. So it's a little bit harder to navigate within the system. And that's something, once again, I will throw that out there that everybody's in here. Don't go out and buy a bunch of stuff right now. Wait until we do the actual technology assessment within your studio and then do recommendations from there. So don't go out and buy anything yet. All right, and the last question is when can we start signing up our studios? Once again, we do have everybody that we've talked to in the past 2.5 weeks. Everybody is in our spreadsheet as far as everybody that's interested and ready to go forward with it. Once again, we have to kind of decide on which direction we want to go and which studios we want to start with. But with the help of FitMetrics, like I said, they're going to help tremendously, so we're going to start actually having the ability to onload a little bit faster than what we anticipated at the conference. So that's the last of the questions. If you guys have anything else? All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time this morning. I have recorded this. I'm going to add this into the website as well. After this call, I'll probably end up giving you guys access to the website so you can kind of start looking through it, start making kind of mental preparations and stuff like that. And then within about a week, we'll get kind of a rollout schedule to you guys as far as where we're going to start and kind of go from there. So thanks, everybody who joined, and we'll be talking soon.
Tony.
All right, bye, guys.